Welcome to the Meat Eaters Podcast. I'm Dan Vedabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we've just had a lot of fun setting up our, our Star Wars Nerds episode for this week. It's a great time to be a TV advertising fan. You could say, as we just had the Super Bowl roll by this past weekend, in which the Eagles beat the
Patriots.
The Patriots. I don't know anything about football, but
some animals attack some patriotic people.
That's what it's coming down to.
Some birds,
animals attacking other animals, and they fight over a football. But so we're going to talk about Super Bowl ads today, all the ads that aired during the big game.
Yeah.
And as well, we're going to talk about some other news stuff. But the funny thing is, I've noticed a trend, and I don't know how long this has been going on for because I just noticed it this year. Some of my favorite YouTubers got free tickets to the Super Bowl. Have you ever heard of this happening?
Not to the Super Bowl.
Well, this is, and I just noticed it on two channels that I watch regularly. Casey Neistat, who is a really well-known vlogger and widely regarded as one of the best vloggers out there because he takes real care to like a filmmaker's approach to vlogging. And then Funnel Vision, which is the other channel that we watch with my kids. And it was very cool to watch these videos. Now, they both made a big deal in their videos about going to pick up their tickets from Vivid Tickets or Vivid Seats or whatever it was. And the other one was a different ticket company. So it's like StubHub, but it's like all these different ticket companies. So they made a very big production out of that part of it. So I think that's the ad for that service. But yeah, it was interesting to watch these guys. The cool thing was the Funnel Vision family went to the Mall of America while they were in Minneapolis. And we've been there many times. And my kids kind of liked seeing them going around the same areas that they were familiar with. So that was kind of a neat deal.
Saw a lot of Nicolette Mall on the local
Nickelodeon.
No, the Nicolette Mall.
Nicolette Mall. Yes, that's right.
Minneapolis.
Yes.
And just like Lester Holt walking down the street and Jimmy Fallon and
lots of celebrities in
lots
Minneapolis.
of celebrities walking down the strip.
For fun, for sure. Which is a lot of fun. So we'll talk about specifically the ads in a few minutes, but first let's get into the nerd news. Nerd News is sponsored by FanQuest, a fan convention happening June 23rd and 24th. Go to fanquestcon.com for more information. Today is Thursday, February 8th.
Yes, and next week is week after next is reading week.
Yes. But today we had a trailer drop, and we're seeming to get into kind of these trailers. We had one for Deadpool this week. There was something else that you couldn't remember. Another trailer that still escapes you.
I loaded trailers on my Apple TV and I watched a bunch, and now it's all a blur. I can't remember what I watched, but I remember going, "Oh, that looks good." That one doesn't look as good. I just went through it. I can't remember now.
The one that dropped
but there's some very interesting ones.
Was one for Venom, which is that dropped this morning. So it's the kind of the follow up to the Spider-Man films, starring Tom Hardy as the titular character. That word makes you giggle every time, doesn't it?
It just looked a little like Guy on the Run, right? Is it a Guy on the Run movie?
I don't think so. I don't know.
No?
I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this because they're definitely taking a different take than the Topher Grace version of Venom that we saw in Superman 3 or Spider-Man 3 rather. I'm a bit skeptical. The big blowback that I've heard so far online is that there's very little Venom in this Venom trailer. There's nothing.
That's true. I was waiting for the shot even in shadow.
Yeah, something to tease what he's going to look like, and there's nothing. So I mean, to me, I'm struggling with how they're going to make this character a good guy because he has to be somebody we identify with. In the comic books, he was just a jerk. You know what I mean? Eddie Brock was a jerk, and he was like kind of a anti-Peter Parker and very much anti-Spider-Man in many ways. It's funny, actually. I remember when I was grade 7. I don't remember how old I would be in grade 7. I guess 12 years old maybe. I broke my leg skateboarding, and I was in the hospital for a while. And while I was in the hospital, in the kids' room, they had a bunch of comic books that you could read while you were sitting there because they were bored and nothing to do. And I picked up, it was hilarious, I picked up Amazing Spider-Man issue 300, which is the very first appearance of Venom. And I read it, and it was amazing. And I have to confess, I took it from the hospital. I'm so sorry.
Were you a man on the run escaping from the hospital?
No, I wasn't, but I kept the comic book because I loved it so much, and I read it, and I don't remember what kind of condition it was in. It was in fairly good condition. It wasn't like ripped up or anything like that. So I remember reading that book, and then I just out of curiosity today, I looked it up online. It's worth about $200 now. That issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
So never go check.
Not that I would sell it if I had it still, but it's just interesting how these things appreciate. So it's a popular character, and it was like maybe he came around. I didn't continue reading a lot of Venom related stories after that, so maybe he comes around and he becomes a good guy in the comic books. I don't know. Maybe somebody listening can tell me that. But for the purposes of this, they're going to have to make something happen that creates. He's going to be fighting with himself, I guess.
Well, that's right. Venom isn't a fascinating character usually, but it looks like they have a new take on it. It also looks more horror style.
Yeah, it does, and it's coming out in October, which is interesting.
Like basically Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
I think that's exactly going to be
Can't control it
Yeah.
because they show him in the bed shaking uncontrollably, so maybe it's one of those deals.
And I think there's going to be a lot of Tom Hardy without the mask on in this one. Got to show the moneymaker, right? You got to show the face.
Although in Mad Max, he just had the metal.
That's good for like a third of the movie.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's when he finally gets it off his face, you feel good.
Yeah.
It actually felt like it was on your face.
Yeah. I think actually the funny thing is I think he looks kind of like Daniel Craig with that mask on. I think he looks a little bit like Daniel Craig with the mask on. That could be Daniel Craig.
That's a very good point.
Anyway. So yeah, there we go. That's coming up. I'm sure I'll see it. The funny thing about is that it is not a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. It's produced by Sony and Columbia Pictures, but it does share a timeline with Spider-Man: Homecoming, which also shares a timeline with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Will Spider-Man be making an appearance?
Very possibly.
Of course.
Very possibly.
It would have to.
I think so. And it's gonna be Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It has to be.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's all that. I mean, if they're not doing it, they're missing an opportunity.
Exactly, because people are really gonna want to see Spider-Man in this film.
Yeah.
So anyway, but again, people are upset that there's not a lot of Venom in the Venom trailer. So that's the news for that.
Well, there is, as I like to point out, there was no chariots and chariots of fire. Even in the
true.
full movie, there wasn't a single chariot. And there's precious little fire now that I think about it.
Okay, moving on to the next story. Black Panther, we're just a few weeks. Actually, it's next week, isn't it? Black Panther is next week, isn't it? The
Oh my
16th.
God, is it already?
It is coming out next week.
Wow.
So Black Panther is on its way out, and it's becoming the. They're very confident that it's going to be the highest grossing movie of the year, one of the highest grossing films of the year. The pre-sales have outpaced all other films this quarter, and it's on track to making $150 million in its opening weekend.
Not bad.
It's been it's getting good reviews. It's the first black superhero movie. It's a pretty big deal.
And the setting in Africa is what the Hollywood Reporter singled out as being its killer feature, and also its most. I think it even says something to the effect of the best character in the movie is the hidden city.
It's Wakanda.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
okay,
right.
Yeah.
That basically that's so well conceived that it's it's like a character unto itself.
It's such a cool thing because that's the comic book. That's what the city is in the comic book, and so it's cool that the imagining of that in film version is so well done and so popular, although it goes back to I think the 70s. I don't know when he became a superhero, but that's always been the case. Wakanda's been the secret, super technologically advanced nation in Africa that's kind of hidden itself in the world, and the Black Panther tradition goes on for generations, and he's just the latest Black Panther in that generation. So I'm looking forward to it. I watch all the Marvel movies. They're quite enjoyable, but I just think it's interesting that this one is doing so well in pre-sales. I'm not going to pre-buy the ticket. I'll just go.
I think now we're starting to differentiate between any Marvel movie and the ones with the big buzz going in. Like there's starting to be a separation.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. I think there's ones that people are just pumped to see for whatever reason. Like Black Panther sort of has had buzz going for quite some time.
Yes.
Whereas for everyone like that. Avengers, big buzz for Avengers.
The first Avengers.
Right. Not as much buzz. Oh, I know what I watched. The trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp.
That's right. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
Which people are kind of liking, I think.
And that's likable, but I don't think it has the passion the way Black Panther does. I think there's something about that character that's I think speaks more to people.
It becomes very clear from that Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer what the gimmick is, and it's the same gimmick we had in the first
Large
movie.
And small.
Large and small. Big and small. Although he gets big. He's giant now because we saw that reveal in the Civil War film, right? So he can get really big as well as really small, and they can shrink everything, even buildings. I thought that was a funny bit. When he shrinks the building down and it turns into a suitcase, that was pretty funny.
It is funny. I also thought if the gag's not in there, then let me table this for the next one. He's got to go into a Mr. Big and Tall store, and he's got to completely change the inventory. So the guy's like, no, like just puts closed on the sign, like
That's funny.
The classic scene.
It'd be cool if he could control his size that much where he can just get a little bit bigger.
Just
a little bit bigger.
Just like 1 inch. That'd be funny.
Just a foot. Like he's 7 feet tall instead of 6 feet tall. That's it. Just
that would be a funny scene actually if you couldn't reach someone and you just went Like just give himself just a little bit
more height,
Yeah.
just so he could have a very successful basketball career.
Yeah.
If he just a little bit taller. All right, and finally today, very sad news this week. John Mahoney passed away.
Yeah.
Of course, the latest in the long line of actor deaths this last few years. John Mahoney is best known probably for playing the dad on Frasier. I was never a Frasier watcher. Did you watch that show?
I watched it for years,
Okay.
and then I didn't watch it, and then I watched it for another year. It sort of came and went.
I never got into it. It was always something that I don't know. I was never a fan. I like Cheers, but Frasier was not my favorite character on Cheers, so I didn't watch the spinoff.
It was
basically.
good. It was clever, sharp writing,
Yeah.
and I heard someone recently on a podcast profess their love for Frasier, and I can't remember what podcast. It might have been WTF. It might have been. But whomever it was, the interviewer died laughing and saying, what is it like about Frasier kind of thing? And it's funny because you don't hear a lot of people singling it out as an iconic 90s show.
Yeah.
But it was hugely
Oh, yeah,
popular.
absolutely, yeah.
And
in
not
many ways bigger than Cheers.
And not just that, they moved it around, and it still continued the popularity. Like, I think first it was Thursdays, then it was Mondays, then it was Tuesdays, and they moved it around in an era where a show would basically die on a Monday.
you couldn't move a show like that around.
Right.
On any other show because the audience would not bother following it, but the audience followed that show to wherever it went. It was a very
Yeah.
dedicated audience. Some other stuff that he played, my favorite role that he ever played was as the dad in Say Anything, Jim Court.
Yep.
I love him in that role. He's such a good movie and such a good role, and just I love it so much. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
And we looked it up before we did this podcast to see what's the age gap between Kelsey Grammer and John Mahoney, and it's 15 years.
That's right.
Which means it could have happened.
He could have been Frasier's dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Could have happened, but probably not.
He also played in Reality Bites. I forgot about this. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page now. He played the morning show host in Reality Bites, Good Morning Grant.
I remember.
That's one of my favorite moments in that movie.
That's like the only good moment in that movie.
Oh, I love Reality
Oh,
Bites.
you
Kidding me?
really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great film.
Oh, well, I won't tell you the tale of Reality Bites about me walking out of the film.
I think you've told me that story
in
before.
anger and frustration. but that scene, I was there for that scene, and I don't dislike that scene. But for me, when the two, as soon as he left the movie, and it was about who are those two? Ben Stiller,
Ethan Hawke, and or Ben Stiller, Winona Ryder.
Is she gonna go with the lazy slacker or the corporate MTV man?
As a lazy slacker at the time,
Yeah.
I was rooting for Ethan Hawke totally, and that's the point of the movie.
Yeah, everybody
right?
was.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
That was the point of that movie.
Yeah, to the extent that you don't understand Winona Ryder's confusion.
That's right.
Where you're like, why is she confused? Maybe she has an issue maybe she doesn't. Maybe there's something wrong with Winona.
Other than that, I mean, he was. I'm trying to think of what else he's been in. He did a bunch of little movies, roles and stuff after Frasier.
Yep.
But not a whole lot. He was on Burn Notice for a couple of episodes. He was in Dan in Real Life. Oh, I like that movie. That was a good film. But I just loved him as a good character actor through the 80s and 90s, and of course he will be missed. But yeah, many Frasier fans are upset this week because of his passing.
Yeah.
Not that it was a huge. It was cancer, of course. This is what takes
Yeah.
a lot of lives, and it's very sad. But still,
Yeah, like I always, for some reason, it's the actors who play the bit parts, where sort of the niche audience sort of actor that sort of get a big social media outcry going, and I certainly saw a lot of people sharing stuff about him. And I've heard a few people who say they saw him on plays and on Broadway and stuff. So he was around for a while.
Right. Yeah, he did do that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to do it for the Nerd News. We're going to take a quick break and come back with our main topic of the Super Bowl ads on the Media Nerds podcast.
What's up?
What's up?
It's the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation in 1997.
Was that the year for that one? That seems like too long ago. I think it was early 2000s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember doing it as a boy. It's too late to be doing that, and it's about 10 years after that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
we're talking
that's
Super Bowl
20 years
ads.
too late.
And it was. I think it was interesting for a lot of reasons. There were some ads that I think were very well received. Some were not very well received at all.
As usual.
As usual, but this year especially, there was one that I'll talk about in a second. But you spoke to your advertising students about it, and what were their
three
takeaways?
classes, and I have 8 takeaways.
Okay.
And one of these is my takeaway, so it's more like 7 takeaways. The ad that should never have happened, and I didn't hear anyone disagree, was the Ram ad
Oh, that
with
was what I was
the
talking
Martin
about.
Luther King.
Yeah.
Like at this stage, there's enough Martin Luther King in advertising to put on a half-hour reel of ads with featuring Martin Luther King. So maybe we need to give that a break forever.
How are they allowed to do that? Is that like a licensing? Like, is that a Creative Commons thing? Or how are they allowed to take that speech?
Martin Luther King's family is renowned for protecting the copyright, and they, as I understand it, went to social media and said, we didn't give permission. But then it sort of looked like, well, maybe their lawyers did. So I don't know how that all shook out. But there was some confusion about that, about did they approve it or didn't they?
Okay.
And maybe we'll know. Maybe as of today, we can look it up when we're done and figure it out. But at the time, there seemed to be confusion around that. The other one noted by my students, Australia, the film trailer that wasn't a film trailer, which we can talk about more. We already did talk about on one of our podcasts. And Netflix, the third thing was Netflix attempting, for the first time, I think, to get people to hijack the post-Super Bowl show.
Yes.
With a movie,
Yes.
Cloverfield, the Cloverfield Paradox?
Yes.
The paradox is they paid $50 million for it, and it's 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. I think it's panned. But they did have the effect of surprising people with something they could watch on Netflix right after the Super Bowl.
So that was not a well-known fact that it was coming out? No. Okay.
They surprised everybody.
They announced
yeah.
it. Okay. Because I think I knew that film was coming. I think I'd heard about it at some point that they were doing another Cloverfield movie, but I didn't know it was Netflix, and I didn't know it was coming out that day. Okay.
I think that's the first time that's ever been attempted, and it kind of works against the interests of NBC, who wanted everyone to stay tuned for This Is Us.
Which my wife did, by the way.
Right, and which you ruined
I
somehow.
ruined
How did
it.
you do it again?
I was on the couch watching. I was just flipping through tweets, looking through Super Bowl tweets because we were talking about it in social media class, and I found a funny one, and I laughed at it, and I laughed. Anybody who's seen the episode knows I laughed at the absolute worst possible moment ever in This Is Us history, and that's all I'm going to say. So, and my wife is not happy.
Bursting out laughing at the wrong moment.
Because she didn't know I was looking at my phone. She thought I was laughing at the show.
That's good stuff. I once saw that movie Girl Interrupted, and I was laughing. I found it very funny, but it's not really a funny movie because I thought the acting was so bad. So I was giggling, and people just they didn't like it.
I'm sure they didn't.
So it's similar.
Yeah.
Except I was actually laughing at the content, so I'm more guilty than you are. The fourth thing was if you're going to be interested in a movie trailer, it seemed like Solo was the movie trailer that had people talking, whether they liked it or did not like it. Not everybody liked it. The fifth thing was Tide, which we'll talk about more.
Yep.
Seemed to Tide got us thinking about Tide despite anything. Every ad we saw, we thought maybe this could be a Tide ad, which was a clever trick. It turns out we like to see Morgan Freeman and Peter Dinklage rap.
Yeah.
For Mountain Dew and Doritos. It was also interesting. The seventh thing on my list was it was really interesting to see the social media coordination with.
That's what we talked about in my class as well. Take a look at what they're doing with social media, especially with Tide. They went big on social media for sure. And
I noticed some people were saying a cheer just went up in the Tide war room kind of thing, and it's like we're actually getting reports now behind the scenes from the marketing department.
Commentators on the marketing teams.
What the hell?
So
there's that. And the last thing, and the other key takeaway that I wrote down was, as I always do, I rate the ads on the USA Today ad meter.
Yep.
I do every year.
I did it too.
For the first time ever, it crashed at the end of the Super Bowl. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Did you get your votes in before?
I did,
crashed?
yeah.
Okay.
I got my votes in, yeah.
So I was on the last voting, and suddenly I noticed I was not signed in anymore. So I went, I need to sign in. So I tried to refresh it. It would not go. The second the Super Bowl was over, it just down it went. Probably because everybody was trying to log in.
Yeah. No, I was doing it as it was going. And actually, I've stopped at the emails now, but it sends you emails notifications when there's more ads available. Mm-hmm. So every time that happened, I just would log back in and rate the ads. So I did it as they were coming out.
See, at a certain point, I couldn't physically log in. It wouldn't let me in. So later in the evening, I checked. I thought I'd rated all the ads, and I checked the ad meter, and there was 4 that it said I hadn't rated that I had. So I went back and I re-rated the 4 ads, but I was like, how many people didn't rate everything they thought they did? And it's the first time I've ever seen that. It's the first time I've ever seen it's sort of not work.
Okay.
Like that.
The results always surprise me.
You have it? Yeah, me too.
We'll
you
talk
have it in
about
front
the
of
results.
you.
Yeah, but I don't want to wait. I want to feed back to you on those things that you just mentioned because I don't agree with a lot of that stuff. that you just said. I thought that I do agree that the Dodge ad with the Martin Luther King was awful. Overall, I felt the vehicle advertisements were not great. The only one that I really liked was there was a couple of Jeep ads. One of them was the Jeff Goldblum Jurassic Park ad, which was hilarious and very funny and tied into another trailer. We had a Jurassic World 2 trailer, so that was great. And
I like that too.
Yeah.
I thought they could have even played it up more than they did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I thought the premise that Jeff Goldblum will always be chased by the raptor, so now give us a glimpse of the future kind of thing, like skeleton driving the car.
There you go.
I kept thinking like, oh, one more level and it's fun, like the rule of threes, let's do one more, but they didn't do it. So I kept thinking of funny ways to punch it up. But.
That was still a good ad, and the other Jeep one I saw was the one that was simply just the Jeep just crossing the river and driving up over, and I think that was nicely done. It's very simple and to the point, and they're like, we're not doing going overboard like all these other advertisers are. We're just going to keep it simple. So I did like that one. All the other ones are awful. All the other Toyota, whatever, all the sappy. There was a lot of sap this year.
I didn't mind some of the sap. Some of the
man.
sap was good syrup, and other sap was just sappy.
The one, it looks like the one that everyone liked the most was the Budweiser Stand By You ad, where they shut down the beer factory to make water.
Actually, the number one ad was Amazon, was it not?
It was, but that was number 3.
Oh, no, sorry, this is the ad meter we're talking about here.
But the Budweiser, like as far as the sappy ones go, the Budweiser.
Oh, the water, yeah. No, like the weird thing, that came in high on Amazon.
It did, and it looked
Amazon,
like sap.
USA Today, sorry.
It looked like sap played well with the audiences because another one was the Toyota Good Odds.
I like that one. I like that one. Not for you.
No. First of all, what were your other points there? Just quickly go through them again. I want to respond
the
to
solo trailer.
Solo trailer. We'll talk about that in the Star Wars Nerds podcast.
Doritos, which you seem to disagree on.
I didn't really love that one. It was fine. It seemed gimmicky. I hate Mountain Dew. I can't stand Mountain Dew. It tastes disgusting to me, and I don't like that brand. Even Doritos bother me. I don't really love Doritos a whole lot. And they got more attention for the stupid comment their CEO made on a podcast or whatever about the lady chips than anything else they did. It's so funny how a side comment made as a joke could get everybody riled up.
I listened to that podcast, and it is not clear.
Really?
No, as you listen to it, you kind of go, wait a sec, could this be true? Like, there's a little element of... But however, it does require someone to pick up the ball and run with it to make it do what it did. Yeah. Right? So that's what happened.
What else was there?
The solo trailer, did we say that? Okay. And which, of course, we talk about on Star Wars Nerds too earlier this week. There's the Tide, making us all think about Tide.
I did not like this campaign.
You and Greg Proops this morning on Greg Proops' podcast, he just ripped it.
This has been done before, and I can't think about the specifics of it. I should have looked it up, but I didn't have time, and I'm not going to do it now. We've seen other campaigns spoof other Super Bowl ads before. We've seen it done. I was like, you know what? I don't know. I just was not wild about this, and it's all very safe for them because they're spoofing their own ads. It's all Procter and Gamble spoofing their own ads, so they're not really making anyone upset here.
Although they are bringing brands together, like they're for a company that does individual branding and doesn't do them as a family, it's a risk.
I don't think it's a risk.
But it worked.
People seem to like it, although it didn't rank high on the thing. But you're right. Students seem to really like that, and I don't think another student I saw comment on Twitter that it was the right thing for them to ignore all the Tide Pod controversy. I think these were in the can long before the Tide Pod thing came around. This was planned out like a year ago. There's no way they're going to mention Tide Pods in their Super Bowl campaign, regardless of what happened with the actual Tide Pods.
No, so Super Bowl is about big branding ads. It's not generally about come to the retail store and buy this. You don't get too many of those.
I found the all the movie and TV ones to be somewhat underwhelming, except for there were two that really caught my eye, and that was one of them was the Cloverfield Paradox, because I'm a big fan of those Cloverfield films, and I was surprised like everyone else. I was excited. I didn't watch it that night, but I did watch it the second night.
And is it people are not liking it? Is what I understand.
Thought it was fine. I thought it was fine.
You liked it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then. The other one I was excited about was the Westworld Season 2 trailer.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Really good, and I really want Westworld. It's coming in April, just as when I was about to disconnect my HBO again. I just they keep
HBO, I know,
going.
they drag you along.
They drag me back in. So that one was really
That's
good.
one of the great shows. That's one
man.
of the great HBO shows.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
So that got me excited, and then everything else, the Mission Impossible, the Jurassic World 2, everything else for film I didn't really care about. What else? Was there all your stuff there on your list, or was there anything else?
Australia, of course.
That was my favorite one.
Really?
That was my favorite ad of the night.
Very interesting.
I love the idea behind this Australia campaign, not only because they teased us and I saw someone who was genuinely upset that it wasn't a real movie on Facebook on the night of the Super Bowl. He's like, I can't believe this isn't real. I really wanted to see this movie. And I think that I don't think it would ever be a movie, but what it does is very clever. What it does is takes the stereotype of Australia, which for years was Crocodile Dundee. That was, and I was talking to our Australian podcast friends about this, and that is the stereotype. It's like Bob and Doug McKenzie for Canadians, and they're fighting against that by making the American, but Danny McBride is the American son of Crocodile Dundee. He is the idiot. And now there's all this awesome stuff about Australia. What I liked even more than the actual ad was the second teaser, which had all the other Australian film stars in it. So it had Hugh Jackman, it had Margot Robbie.
Right.
It had a bunch of Australian actors, and it was like all about the movie and that kind of stuff. So it was setting up the movie. And then to have Danny McBride realize halfway through the ad that they're not in a movie, that it's actually an ad, I thought was hilarious. I just loved it. I loved the premise of it. I loved the acting. It hit all the right points for what they wanted to do, and it made me want to go to Australia.
Danny McBride and Chris Elliott were in Super Bowl ads.
Oh,
and
yes.
And I just want to say, like, my two favorite idiot characters are the ones played by Danny McBride and Chris Elliott. Although Chris Elliott had an online campaign with avocados from Mexico. And he only played a small role in the one that actually aired in the Super Bowl.
I gotta say, I like the online thing better. The one that actually aired wasn't great.
Wasn't as good.
It seemed like he's just there randomly. He wasn't really the focus of it.
No.
It was just like, Chris Elliott is here, right? And that everything else is happening. So,
but I like those clueless idiots, and they can bring them back as often as they want.
The other one that I didn't love, this is kind of coming back to the car ads, the Kia ad with Steven Tyler, and we had the claymation face of young Steven Tyler. He drives backwards and it turns back time and makes him young again, although he looks like Grand Moff Tarkin from Rogue One. I was not a fan of that one.
I didn't mind that. I didn't love it or hate it. And similarly, Keanu Reeves standing on his motorcycle. I kind of got a kick out of that one.
I liked that one. That was funny.
Yeah, I liked it too, but it seems no one's really talking about it. And probably the call to action, see what Keanu did on Squarespace, I think was the call to action. I was like, nah. Like all of the ones that try to drive.
Do you really think he did that himself?
I
went to the website. I looked at the website.
Oh my God, good for you! I was going to
say for his motorcycle company.
I was just about to say nobody went to the website,
no,
but you actually did.
Yeah, it's for his motorcycle company, which is what that was. So he got a benefit of showing off his motorcycle company as well. So he probably know he went in with them on the ad time. But it's a fine website, but it's like I don't know that he did that. You can't tell him. You can't guarantee that Keanu Reeves really did that.
He didn't sit down.
I mean, they show him. It's funny. There was a bunch of videos where they show him sitting by a fire doing and very organic and stuff. But I'm not a fan of Squarespace. I'm not a All right. So the number. So getting to the ad meter results now. Yeah. Number one was Alexa loses her voice, which was the Amazon ad.
Bezos can act.
No, he can't.
No, he can't.
No. That's what I took away from that ad.
But he is attempting to act.
That's right.
That's right. That's more correct.
For the purpose of comedy, so I can get behind that. But no, he's not a great actor.
He reminded me of my least favorite acting ever in anything was Ringo Starr and Give My Regards to Broad Street.
Okay.
And to me, when I saw it, I thought, did Ringo Starr teach this guy how to act? Kind of like, let me get this straight. Harry and the tapes are missing. Like there's a little bit of that. It's kind of like just say the words.
How many
Ringo.
takes do you think that took?
I took a lot
Bezos,
of takes.
He's a very busy guy. He probably didn't have time for more than a couple.
Yeah, he probably was a busy guy to shoot that commercial too.
That's right.
In the commercial and to shoot the commercial. He probably was the same guy.
Yeah. And then the gimmick, of course, is cramming all these celebrities into this. The bit is funny, but I think it falls flat. The only one I really liked was the Anthony Hopkins voice, which I thought was funny.
Oh, that was very good.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
That was Hannibal Lecter. Let's be honest. That voice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he was doing. But that was the only part of that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Number two was the touchdown. It was the NFL ad. Touchdown celebrations to come, where they do the Dirty Dancing bit.
That was enjoyable.
No, I didn't like that.
Oh, I laughed. I laughed.
I did not laugh. I thought it was dumb. Sorry, I just didn't, I'm not a fan of the. I guess I don't. I'm not a football fan, so maybe that's why. I just don't get the hilarity. Why is it funny for these two to be reenacting the Dirty Dancing thing?
It made me laugh. I'm not sure, but maybe because it's big burly men.
Maybe
in
that's
the
what
roles
I
made
think that's what
famous
they're
by
going
none.
for.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. This is going way too long.
I'm not
here.
a football fan either. I could care less about the outcome of the game. I just don't care.
Yeah,
yeah. And I used to live in Boston.
Oh,
I don't even
that's
care.
Right.
I don't even care.
No.
And in fact, if anything, I just was sick of hearing about Tom Brady. So
yeah,
I wanted
kidding.
him to lose.
Next one was number 3 was Budweiser, Stand By You. We've talked about this one. Number 4 was Peter Dinklage and Morgan Freeman, rap battle. Many people seem to like that one.
Yeah.
Number 5 was the Toyota Sappy ad about the baby something or other. What was Good Odds?
I like that one.
Okay. I didn't, but that's okay. Because I'm just not a sappy.
It was moving.
Was it?
It moved me.
Oh, there you go. Maybe you'll buy a Toyota.
It made me cry after laughing after this NFL one.
Number 6 I thought was a funny bit. It was the human M&Ms where the red M&M turns into Danny DeVito. That's pretty funny.
He met a violent end in the commercial, which wasn't for everyone.
No.
But somebody in class mentioned something. It's a really great point, and that is the other M&M should have turned into a celebrity too. At the end of the
that's
ad.
right.
They
That's
missed
right.
the big opportunity. That's probably would have been good.
It was the female M&M, right? So yeah, have
green,
that
the green
female,
one.
Have it.
That's Julia Roberts, maybe.
Sure.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Could be anybody.
Yeah, for sure. They could have been. But I guess it's the gimmick is having him run around in a red T-shirt. That's really what they're going for there.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, I don't know how far down the list you want to go.
What's last?
Let's find out.
Let's find out the bottom.
That's
Let's get the bottom of the barrel. I think I know what it is.
Okay, what do you think it is?
Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was last.
Just because. So what?
What was
Is
the
she?
point
Is
of
that?
it?
Do we know who this person is?
No, it is not.
Is she a
anybody.
famous actor?
No.
Okay, because it just doesn't. I don't
Doesn't
know.
make
She
sense.
dances, and not in a way that's interesting.
The bottom 5 are interesting.
Yeah.
Bottom 5, the Turkish Airlines with Dr. Oz.
Oh.
People didn't like that
Wow.
one. The Skechers wide fit shoes with Howie Long. Nope, nobody liked that one
Well,
either.
it's just nothing happens in it.
That's
Who
right,
cares?
that's right.
Wearing shoes is like getting a comfortable chair on an airplane. Okay, we get the metaphor. Bye.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
YouTube TV fell flat. That was where they showed the actual game feed during the ad. It was supposed to be kind of this way. Look, you can still watch TV while you're watching an ad. And that people did not respond.
People
well to
didn't
that.
even notice that that's what the ad was about.
Maybe that was the problem.
It was a big problem, and that's not. It's the advertiser's problem for not making that idea more front and center.
Yes. And
It's
then
ridiculous.
Another one here: the Blackcher be celebrated.
What?
I didn't understand it.
I don't remember.
It was Blackcher. I don't even know. It's the one with the man on the stage, and he's got the duct tape over his mouth, and
Oh yeah,
it was some sort of thing. I don't get it.
I forgot about that.
Not aimed at us, but I didn't understand it either. And those are the bottom 5.
I like the imagery of that ad,
Yeah.
but the takeaway was negligible because I thought it was going to be a big moment, and then it kind of fizzles, and it doesn't stick with you. And and here we are just struggling to remember what the message was.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. So those are. I mean, there was also some funny stuff. Wendy's had a funny bit. They slammed McDonald's in their ad, and then they actually went online and slammed McDonald's on Twitter as well.
But are you gonna buy a $5 million ad to name your competitor?
Oh, I don't think that's a good idea.
It just seemed, just seemed like a very odd strategy.
Are they still like? Are we still talking about this? Are the burger wars still happening? I don't know. I don't think
it's
so.
sort of like, it's like concocting something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, they're trying to set themselves as the what's it called? The secondary kind of brand in that. But they're probably the 3rd or 4th brand after Burger King and whatever else. Subway.
The against brand always goes after the big one, and the big one never talks about the other brands.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it doesn't ring true. It doesn't seem like anything. They didn't tap into any kind of belief that people secretly hold. I think
they're trying to play off the fact that their social media campaign has been a lot of like sass and sarcasm and being really funny and clever, which McDonald's is absolutely not. McDonald's plays this straight all the way. So that's what they're trying to do online, and they're trying to parlay that into a television ad, which doesn't work as well. Okay, that's. I think we don't have any more time to talk any more of these about these ads, but overall, same as it ever was. It's just some great, some not so great.
It's always interesting to sort of see like so many people try to come up with a commentary and what does it mean this year and what is it? What is this? It's like that's the State of the Union more than the actual State of the Union speech, which happens around the same time. Where every year they try to like find a common thread, and I think this year might have been the ads were funnier. Or aimed to be funnier than the previous year.
I think they were maybe aimed to be. They were not funnier, but I think there was a lot of sap, a lot of trying to pull at America's heartstrings. Like, yeah, we know we're in a crappy time right now. We're there with you. I think we got a lot of that crap. And I don't know, whoever came up with that Martin Luther King thing should be fired. I hope they got fired over that idea. Although I'm sure there were many approvals up the chain of command.
Yes, there were.
So it's like the Pepsi Kendall Jenner ad, the same kind of thing. Who didn't see this for what? Who didn't foresee that blowback?
And remember, sometimes clients insist on things that the agency doesn't want to do. Like,
Maybe.
there's so much backstory on any one of these ads. The fact that any of these even make it to air. When they were designed
the original
to be aired.
concept might have been something completely different, and then it might have been a different speech that made more sense.
Yeah.
But someone said, "No, Martin Luther King. We want to jump onto this movement," and whatever. That could have been what it was. You know what I mean?
It probably came from a good place and ended up doing the exact opposite of what they intended.
Exactly. All right, let's get to our recommendations quickly before we sign off for the day. I would like to recommend to you and to anyone listening that you should give the Cloverfield Paradox a chance.
Oh.
I quite enjoyed it. And I will say this. I had a conversation with one of our students this week about it. I like the Cloverfield films. The first two, what I like about them is that they're all different genres. So the first one is a monster movie, but also a found footage movie. And the second one was kind of a suspenseful thing, that drama suspense thriller. This one is a sci-fi movie. It's a sci-fi. They're on a space station. They're like, it's almost like an alien-esque kind of people getting killed one by one kind of thing. Not by a monster necessarily, but it's like, yeah, and it's confusing because it's like parallel universe stuff. It's very, very confusing.
Is it paradoxical?
Well, the paradox is that they do something. They travel. It's a parallel universe, and they mess something up. That's all I'm going to say. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. At one point, I'm like, holy crap, look at this. This is fun. I'm having fun watching this. And then I got tired, and I turned it off with 20 minutes left. I'm like, I'll just watch the rest tomorrow. So I slept on it. And when I woke up and I started watching it again, I realized, okay, this wasn't as good as I remember. I don't know if I was just really in the mood for it, but I quite enjoyed it up to a certain point, and then the ending was not so great. They do tie it in all around to at least to the first one, very, very obviously. And there are some moments that make you question, well, is this awfully convenient? This is the way things are going. It does star Eric O'Dowd, who I love, very funny guy, provides the comic relief here as well. And who else is a star? The girl, I don't remember her name, but she's from my favorite episode of Black Mirror, which is the San Junipero episode of Black Mirror. She's in this as well as the main character.
Cool.
So I quite enjoyed it. And if you're a fan of the Cloverfield films, you should watch it. Just give it a chance.
That's a great recommendation, and I will give it a chance.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Let me know what you think.
And I still haven't watched Failsafe like I promised I would.
Come on.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started. Every time I look at Apple TV, I feel guilty for not having watched it yet. I got too much barking to do. That's the problem, or else I probably would have. Mine is we had a whole podcast recently on Star Wars Battlefront, and I was like, well, I'm sort of it's fine sort of thing. But then I started playing the Mad Max game. And I have to say I am addicted to it.
Okay.
I love that game, and folks who are interested in the Mad Max universe would love this game. I will really say that. I was worried that was just a quick knockoff. And when I first saw what the in-game map looks like, it looks kind of cheap. I was like, oh, did they just crank this out? And at first I was not impressed because you have to play the game, and I chipped away at it, but you have to play the game for like probably about 4 or 5 hours worth of time before you get all the upgrades you need to truly be Mad Max and to truly start having
you
fun.
Play as Mad Max?
Yes,
okay.
And you're driving down the highway and your car has weapons, and as they get better, it becomes more fun. At first, it's no fun because you're getting your ass kicked for 4 hours, and you're like, this is stupid. This is the worst. But as you start to progress, you're like, oh, you start to figure out how the game dynamics work, like most games. But now that I'm playing it, now I have a little bit of strength. I got a good car. I'm driving around the wasteland, and it's a lot more fun. And the story is good enough to be a film, probably good enough to be another Mad Max film.
Is it like continue the story after the first film? After
Well,
the
Mad
latest film.
Max, you never know what they're doing. Is it a prequel? Is it a sequel? Is it a?
It's not even clear with this latest one, Fury Road,
No.
when that takes place in the timeline.
And the game's the same way.
Although I think it's pretty clear that the last one is still the Thunderdome. I think that's the.
Oh, yeah?
Well, because he's old, he's got gray hair and stuff, right?
Huh?
You ever thought of that?
No.
Okay, well,
Did not occur to me.
That's my feeling. I think the Thunder one was meant to be the last.
Well, where's
of the-
Tina Turner then? If you're so smart. So yeah, so
Arguing with Master Blaster. What do you think?
the worst named character in
know.
any film ever. Yeah. So I love the game as a fan of the series, and I have to say my favorite thing in the game is as the sun's setting in the game and you're driving down the road, it actually looks like when you're taking a road trip from Winnipeg to Saskatchewan in the summertime, and it's just like flat land and you can see the sun setting. There's moments in the game where you're like, I feel as though I'm on a road trip to Saskatchewan from Manitoba. So it's fun, except for the desert. I mean, except for the desert.
The crazy people rolling up beside you and trying to attack you.
No, that's the same.
That's the same?
Yeah.
It's the Saskatchewan
And
people.
no Tina Turner, but
That's
other
right.
than that, yeah, it's exactly the same.
Oh, I think I will check that out.
Yeah.
I saw it on my Xbox screen
Yeah.
being advertised to me as I was to download it.
You can get it used at this point for
Oh yeah,
it's
no,
like,
I'll do that.
Yeah, next time, and I'll even give you the game when I'm done with it. But it's one of those games that you're just, I play it for like maybe half an hour a day kind of thing, maybe an hour max. Sort of max, huh? See what I did there? And an hour max till I get mad. Max. Nobody cares. So I recommend it, and if you like the movie, you'll like the game.
Oh, I like the movie. I'm sure I'll like the game.
The game's old too,
Yeah.
so it took me a long time to come.
Oh, I'll check it out for sure. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Media Nerds Podcast. Go to MediaNerdsPodcast.com for our full podcast, blog, and social media channels.